All right, let's talk about training, specifically training for a major change initiative. It's one of the biggest challenges you'll face, and you can bet it's a huge part of your certification exam. If you get this part wrong, the whole project can stumble. But if you get it right, well, that's how you build a solid bridge from where you are to where you need to be. So let's break down exactly how to nail it. So this is it, right? This is the million-dollar question. How do you design training that isn't just about ticking a box? How do you create something that really, truly prepares people, closes those critical gaps, and makes new ways of working feel second nature? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. Here's our game plan. First, we're going to cover 2 foundational learning models that you absolutely have to know for your exam. Then we'll walk through the entire process, step by step, for building a really top-notch training program. Okay, let's get the theory down first, because it's super important. To make sure your training actually hits the mark, you've got to ground it in 2 powerhouse educational models, Bloom's taxonomy and the ADDIE model. Seriously, if you're prepping for an exam, these 2 names are non-negotiable. So what's the difference between these 2? It's actually pretty simple, but incredibly powerful. Think of it like this. Bloom's taxonomy is the what. It helps you figure out what level of learning you need people to achieve. The ADDIE model, on the other hand, is the how. It's your practical, step-by-step guide for actually designing and delivering that training. Let's look closer at Bloom's. It's basically a ladder of learning. At the very bottom, you've got the basics, like just remembering facts. Then you climb up to understanding those facts, then applying them, analyzing them, all the way to the top where you have the really complex stuff, like evaluating information and even creating something totally new. As a change manager, this is your secret weapon. It forces you to ask, am I just asking people to remember a new rule, or do they need to create a whole new process? The answer completely changes how you design your training. And that brings us to the ADDIE model, or how. This is the practical roadmap we're going to follow from here on out. It's an acronym, of course, for analysis, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. Just think of it as your quality control checklist. If you follow these 5 stages, you're ensuring the training you build is targeted, effective, and, you guessed it, measurable. So let's jump into that first and arguably most critical stage, analysis. I'm not kidding. Everything you do later, the cool videos you make, the workshops you run, all of it is built on the foundation you lay right here. If you rush this, the whole thing could fall apart. The analysis stage has 5 key steps you just can't skip. You've got to revisit your current and future states, run a solid gap analysis, get input from your stakeholders, do a real needs assessment, and then prioritize what you're going to train on. Getting these 5 things right is absolutely crucial for success. Now, when you do that gap analysis, here's a common trap. People only focus on one thing. For this to really work, you have to look at 3 different types of gaps. First, the knowledge gap. What new stuff do people need to learn? Second, the skills gap. What do they need to be able to physically do? And third, the behavior gap. How do their attitudes or actions need to change? If you ignore any one of these, your training's going to have a big hole in it. Okay, this next step might sound like just being polite, but it's so much more than that. Bring in stakeholders, we're talking end users, managers, HR. It's not just about getting their feedback, it's a strategic play. When you ask for their input, you're getting them invested. You're building a team of supporters, a coalition that's going to help champion this change across the whole organization. Right, so once you've got this big list of all the things people might need to learn, you have to prioritize. Because let's be real, you can't do it all at once. You have to look at each item and ask, how big of an impact will this have on the whole project? What's the risk if we don't address this gap? And honestly, can we even pull this off with the time and money we have? Okay, deep breath. We've done our homework in the analysis stage. Now we get to move into the more creative part of ADD, design and develop. They are 2 separate stages. Design is the blueprint, and develop is actually building the materials, but we're going to look at them together. This is where your plan starts to feel real. Here's a huge design tip. Think about the pace of learning. You might be tempted to cram everything into one long 8-hour day to get it over with, but that's usually a terrible idea. Spreading the learning out over a few shorter sessions, that can boost how much people remember like you wouldn't believe. Same goes for group size. Smaller groups often mean more people feel comfortable speaking up and participating. Now, when you're in the develop stage, your main goal is to get people doing things, not just listening. So think way beyond a PowerPoint deck. Can you create worksheets they fill out during the session? Give them simple handouts that summarize the key takeaways. What about short online quizzes to check if they're getting it? Or maybe kick things off with a cool, inspiring video. Every single one of these things makes the learning more active and helps it stick. And that brings us to the final two stages: implement and evaluate. This is where the rubber really meets the road. We're going to deliver the training we've worked so hard on. And then, and this is so important, we're going to measure if it actually did what we wanted it to do. We have all been a victim of this. You're sitting in a dark room and someone is just reading every single bullet point off their slides. It's death by PowerPoint. And it's the fastest way to make sure nobody learns anything. Your number one job during implementation is to avoid this disaster at all costs. So what's the cure for death by PowerPoint? Active engagement. Turn that lecture into an interactive workshop. Use breakout rooms to get small groups talking and solving problems. Offer coaching. And you know what? Don't be afraid to use a little humor to keep the energy levels up. You want to pull people into the experience, not just push information at them. So the last session is over. Everyone's got their certificate. You'd think your job is done, but it's not. Not yet. This is the moment of truth. You have to step back and ask the tough questions. Did it work? Did we actually close those knowledge, skill, and behavior gaps we found all the way back at the beginning? And your evaluation has to be more than just a happy sheet. Remember those metrics you set up in the analysis stage? This is where they pay off. Compare the new performance data to your old baseline. Get real, honest feedback from the people who were in the room. Test their new knowledge and skills. The ultimate test is this: are they now, for real, ready to go live with this change? And I want to leave you with this final thought, because it's something every change manager needs to remember. There's always going to be pressure to do things fast, to rush the training so you can check that box. But here's the thing. You can rush the training, but you can never, ever rush the learning. Real, lasting change takes time, it takes thoughtful design, and it takes a commitment to genuine engagement. Keep that in mind, and you'll be set for success.